Scott Heller, aka Dr. Space. Thank you for joining me this afternoon for a chat. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's about a 5-hour time difference over here in Portugal.
That's it. Where in Portugal are you?
We're in central Portugal, about 3 hours north of Lisbon, up in the mountains, about 2 hours kind of south east of Porto. It's a region called the Serra da Estrela Mountains, and we live near a town called Oliveira da Hospital.
Oh, obviously. I have seen photos that you have posted of where you are, and it is the sort of unreal, idyllic setting that, like, when you imagine I'm gonna go and move to the mountains of Portugal, that might have been in your mind. How many years have you been there now? A while,
We've
right?
been here almost 4.5 years now.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. And you're building a studio.
Yes, the studio is right next to the house too. So it's going to be very, very convenient. And I think it's going to be an amazing, inspiring place for bands to come and record. So the building is almost finished now. They just have to finish the outside, and they're hopefully coming later this week to put in the windows and the door. And then the specialist, Jules from Jules Newell Acoustic Engineering, he goes around and builds world-class studios all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
He's finishing up refurbishing the old copy of Abbey Road 2 studio that they built in Lisbon in the early 70s. And he was hired to refurbish the studio. And they've been working there for almost 6 months now, but they're almost done. They're going to come here next.
Wow. Okay. That should be good because you haven't been busy or anything.
You don't think so?
No. The list of 30 plus releases that you sent me, was it this year and into next year, is fairly amazing.
Thanks.
Are you now the most productive you've ever been?
I think in the last 2 years, I've been the most productive I've ever been. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just all the different kinds of collaborations I have and different projects, and get approached by other people. And because of COVID, I haven't been touring or anything. I mean, 2019, I played 44 concerts in 11 different countries. And then now, 2020, I did one home concert for Roadburn. This year,
I saw
it. Yeah, this year, Doctors of Space, we did the Roadburn Redux, and we played 2 concerts here in Portugal. And Øresund played the Fuzz Fest in Esbjerg in Denmark in May.
Okay.
So there just hasn't been much concerts. So I've just been basically at home and working on music. But I also have a big land that this land where we live is actually an old an olive farm.
Okay.
So the place where the studio is built used to be a building where they used to press olive oil.
Oh.
And the land we still have, all these years later, we still have about 40 olive trees. And November is when we harvest the olives, and have probably 300 or 400 pounds of olives this year.
Wow. What do you do with 300 or 400 pounds of olives? Do you make olive oil?
You make olive oil. So there's this region, there's a lot of olive trees. So you just take them over to a local pressing plant, and they press it into olive oil for you. And they take like 50% of it, but they do all of the work.
Dude, how do you not sell olive oil?
Well, because this is actually the first year that we're having a big harvest, because, we had a huge fire here.
No.
We had a huge fire here 6 months after we moved here that burned down everything except our house.
Wow. Okay.
So we nearly lost everything, actually.
Wow.
It was a really, really scary experience.
Sure.
To see huge fire moving down the river valley and knowing that we were going to have to evacuate and leave,
Right.
and not knowing if we'd come back to anything or not. And we nearly didn't. The house survived and the fire didn't get in. But, you know, when we came back to the patio where I had my outdoor speakers and our big table, there was nothing left, absolutely nothing, except for the magnets from the speakers and the bolts from the table, and our pool was gone and all of our patio furniture, and, you know, there was nothing left. And all the fruit trees, all the olive trees, for a year afterwards, 6 months after, it looked like Mordor where we lived.
Right.
Where we lived. So wow. We've gone through kind of a hellish start here in Portugal, but it's amazing how things grow here, because it's actually, you get 8 months of nice weather and you get 4 months of a lot of rain here.
Okay.
So things are really green and things really grow fast here. So wow. Now the olive trees are back up to 10, 15 feet tall, and, they're going to have 300 or 400 pounds of olives 4 years after the fire.
That's amazing. That's incredible. So are you going to sell olive oil then?
We haven't really decided, but, in the future, there could be Dr. Space's olive oil or something.
Dr. Space's cosmic olive oil? Come on.
Something could be something like that, but I'm more likely to make some, like a Dr. Space chili sauce or something in the future, because I love chili, and we grow a lot of chilies, lots of varieties of chilies. So
you could do a whole line, man. I could. Øresund has tour dates coming up, a couple of them, right?
We do. We're playing one in Malmö, Sweden, the first time since 2017. And then we're playing Høstesabbat on Saturday the 8th, which we could have met up if you were coming over. I know you've been there a couple of times. And
oh, dude, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. The church and Ola and Jens. Oh man, it breaks my heart to not be going.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, Norway is one of the countries where Øresund has hardly ever played. I mean, the last time we played in Oslo was 2007.
Wow. Okay.
It's been a long time since we played in Oslo, and we've only actually played, and then we played 2 gigs in Trondheim, so we've only ever played 3 times in Norway.
How come?
But I played Høstesabbat like 5 years ago with Blackmoon Circle.
Yes.
But this was when it used to be in the student union building at the university before they moved to the church.
Okay. I was at what was the name of the venue? Was it Vulture? Something like that. What was the name of the venue?
But Walter was DJing that year.
Oh yeah. That's adorable.
Yeah.
Man, but it's that festival has become something really, really special.
I'm just so happy they were able to do it this year.
Yeah. I am too, even though I can't go.
Yeah.
I'm very happy it's happening. I'm happy you're getting to play it.
Yeah, it's going to be good fun. And then the next day after Høstesabbat, we go back and we play a gig in Denmark, in Helsingør, which is about 40 minutes north of Copenhagen. And we've actually never played in that town before.
All right, so covering.
And we'll be able to promote the new CD.
See, I saw you post the album cover this morning, actually. Relaxing in the Himalayas. I like the product placement.
Yeah, it's actually turned out quite nice.
Very cool.
It's one of our Bandcamp subscribers who's a Swedish guy who lives in Japan, and he actually made all the drawings. Made all the drawings, and then our normal graphic artist David Graham did the layout for us. Nice.
When was that recorded?
That was recorded in 2014, actually.
Okay.
So it's a kind of we have not been able, because we haven't been able to record anything new, partially because of COVID, and also I had thought that it wasn't going to take 4 years to build a studio in Portugal, but the bureaucracy and everything here is everything is so slow. just have to, you have to, when you come to Portugal, you just have to like slow your life down by like 80%.
It's the trade-off for the beautiful mountains and the gorgeous weather. And yeah,
Yeah.
I
So,
believe you. Yes.
so we have not had a new studio session. Last time we were in the studio was January 2017, just before I moved here.
Wow.
A few months before I moved here, and we had Gary Ars from Yawning Man joined us with, and Nicholas from Papier joined us, and that's the album. And we only made one album from that studio session because we only had one day in the studio. That was the Chatoyant Breath album.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But we've, you know, the two previous studio sessions that we had in 2014 and 15, we had like 6 hours from each session.
It's amazing.
Because we recorded over a couple of days, so that we've had lots and lots of albums. But
right,
those sessions are almost, we've almost released everything that we think is worth releasing from those sessions now.
Right.
So
it's almost tapped out.
But my studio will hopefully be completely finished by December, I hope.
Okay.
So I'm really hoping to get the guys down here in early 2022, and we can make some new music.
You got to be itching at this point, right?
Yeah, well, it's been, I mean, we used to go in the studio almost, every year and a half in Copenhagen. I mean, all of our studio albums were all recorded at the same studio, the Black Tornado Studios in Copenhagen, where On Trial recorded, and Gas Giant and Baby Woodrose and Highway Child and Papier. And it's a fantastic studio. And if you want to go old school, totally analog, they've got all the gear, you know. It's a really nice studio to record in.
Is yours going to be analog? Is your studio going to be full analog?
It is not going to be. It's going to be an analog modeling studio, though.
Okay. What does that mean?
So that means there's a company in California called Universal Audio, and they're like the world's best at modeling analog sound.
Okay.
And so they've come up with outboard gear that combined with software which models the best of analog gear. So they have like a 2-inch tape machine plug-in, and they have Neve, you know, Neve is like one of the main studio desks that everybody loves from the 70s. And they have a Neve studio desk plugins where you have the channel strip, the channel EQs, and they model them digitally.
Okay. Oh.
And so I'm setting up the studio like that, and it's probably like 95 to 98% as good as the
right there
having the real analog gear. It's not cheap gear to set up and own either, but the sound you can get is just absolutely amazing. And for me, since I'm not an electrical engineer or an electrician, having old analog gear requires a lot of maintenance.
Right.
And if you can't do it yourself, it can be really pricey to have old analog desks and 2-inch tape machines, which require constant maintenance and all these things. Right. So for
my understanding of the 2-inch tape machine is you have one for parts and one to keep working. Yeah. Right. Well,
you know, the guys from Blackmoon Circle, they have their own studio up in Trondheim, and they've gone full analog. So they have a great 1975 Midas 24-track desk, and they've got a 2-inch tape machine, and they got a 1/4-inch Ampex tape machine, but they have people surrounding them that can fix these things. And it's taken them a lot of work over the last 2 years to get all this stuff running properly, you know, but now they can make amazing recordings, and we have.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there in person for the making of the latest record, but.
Right. I saw at Blackmoon Circle on the list for next year. Now,
yeah,
that is the 5th Blackmoon Circle album, 4th or 5th.
I think if you exclude the 3 studio jams records and the box set, I think that will be there's the EP, and then there's 3 studio albums, so that will be the 4th studio album.
Okay, I was thinking of the first EP as a studio album. Yeah. No, I keep the sessions are separate in my mind, but the jam
sessions are something different.
Yeah, always welcome though. as far as I'm concerned.
Oh
But
yeah, I can't wait till we have some more. But we know we have a new drummer, so
I
in
did not know.
Blackmoon Circle. For the last 2 years, we've had a different drummer than the last tour where we played. I mean, almost 2 years ago, we were touring in October 2019. We actually toured with Bismuth
Mhm.
and played 2 gigs in Holland, and we played the Desert Fest in Antwerp.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that was with a different drummer, Daniel. But we all parted ways with Daniel in December of that year, and in the middle of 2020, oh no, that earlier than that, they actually started jamming with Thomas, the drummer from Motorcycle.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess you're in Trondheim, right? I mean,
Yeah, you're in Trondheim, and Motorcycle Studios just, or their place where they jam is about 5 minutes walk from where Blackmoon Circle have their studio. So,
why not? Why
but
not?
it's a good chemistry. They've had a great chemistry, and they're having really fun playing with Thomas. And we've recorded 6 or 7 songs, the
Okay.
shortest of which is like 8 minutes, and the longest is like 22 minutes. So
Yes, yes. That's wonderful.
yeah.
Do you record every show Øresund plays?
Absolutely. We record, and we try to make a multi-track recording of every show if possible, because yeah, of course, when Øresund, it's a totally improvised music, so it only happens once.
Right.
We don't have like songs and we're just jamming on them, which is also unique because every jam is going to be unique. But here it's all made up on the spot on the stage, and it only happens once. So it's really, really important to record and capture those concerts. And I always encourage people who are recording concerts, hey, if you come to our concert, please record the concert.
Mhm.
In case something happens with my recorder or something, it's nice
Right.
to have somebody else
Backup.
record the concert as well. Because I mean, the Edirol, which I record all the concerts with, it's pretty reliable, but still it can, somebody can knock it off the position while I'm on stage, or something can happen. The battery, you didn't charge up the battery the night before, can die. And so it's very important. And I mean, Blackmoon Circle also, we record all the concerts, and all the concerts are put up at the archive.org in America.
Yeah.
Too,
I know.
which
I've
is
seen the
great.
Øresund stuff on there. I didn't know Blackmoon
Yeah.
Circle did too. How much can that recorder hold? And you
Well,
go right into
now
the soundboard?
you can, but this is for making the audience recordings.
Okay.
This is for making the audience recordings. And so this has a 32 gigabyte card, so you can record many, many hours.
Okay.
But my old one, which I've just retired, it only had a 2 gigabyte card.
Yeah, no, that's.
And so I had to have several cards with me for each show. I'd have to have a new card for each show that we were on tour. And then I'd either have to transfer it to my computer if I brought my computer on tour with me. And so the new one, also the battery life, you could record for maybe 5 hours on batteries. And somehow they've optimized the battery. And I mean, the battery lasts for like 10 hours in the new Edirol.
Nice. That's I have always dreamed of bootlegging shows, right? I've been since I was a kid buying bootlegs, big bootleg fan, big live, that sound.
Well,
I like a lot. And of course you've got plenty. But I've never actually done it.
Okay, well, I mean, you serve another job though, I mean, you're up in the front, and you're capturing the emotion of the band in your photos, and you're capturing the magic of what they perform through your words, so. And there's other people out there filming for YouTube, and occasionally there are people recording. So, I mean, if you were standing up there also recording and trying to take the pictures and thinking about it, it would be too much, So I think I mean, this is something I've been doing for a long time. I mean, I recorded my first concert before you were born. I mean, I recorded Ted Nugent in 1980 was the first concert that I did.
You got me by a year. You got me by 1 year.
Yeah, but I was recording concerts before you were born, so I've been bootlegging concerts for a long time. But they used to be a cassette deck that I would sneak into the concerts.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
awesome.
And I mean, the first concert I recorded with my own, when I had finally bought my own in June of 1981, was Ozzy Osbourne and Motorhead.
Dude, where was that show?
That was in El Paso at the County Coliseum in El Paso, Texas.
It's amazing. Do you still have the tape?
Of course, I still have the tape, and then and I did tape trading for more than 20 years. So if you ever visit, you go downstairs where this is where the vinyl are, but the CDs and the cassette tapes are downstairs, and I have 5,500 cassette tapes.
I'm on my way.
So you could spend a lifetime just listening to the cassettes of all the old recordings, and I don't know how I must have recorded, I don't know how many shows, 300-400 shows on cassettes.
Wow.
Something like that before. And then in 1996 was the last time I recorded on cassette. I think early 97, I got a mini disc recorder.
I had a mini disc recorder. I did.
And and then for the next 5 or 10 years, I recorded on mini discs, and then I switched over to the Adderall.
Mm-hmm. Which sounds a lot like Adderall when you say it. I know it's not, but
sure.
So you have to. I imagine that your archive, especially of sort of the mid late 90s, early aughts Danish heavy scene, is one of a kind.
Yeah, probably, because when I moved to Denmark in 97, and I recorded all the I more or less recorded all the concerts I went to, and because I was good friends with Gas Giant and managed Gas Giant, and I also was good friends with the guys in On Trial, I recorded all the On Trial concerts, every concert they played. And I was also good friends with Ralph Riley, who was their sound man and their manager. And when he would go out on tour, when they went to the US, and he was recording on mini discs, and when they would go out on European tours, he would come back with the stacks of mini discs, and he'd give them all to me, and I would transfer them to CDs for the band.
Yeah,
But I actually, before I left Denmark to move to Portugal, I actually gave all the master recordings back to a lot of these bands. So I gave Goof, Lorenzo, whatever you want to name him. I gave him a whole box of all the Baby Woodrose CDs. All the concerts that Ralph had recorded, I had recorded, and then turns out that he doesn't even own a CD player. and same with On Trial, Henrik Hobiden, guitar player from On Trial, I gave him the whole box of all the On Trial concerts, because they also, back in the late 1998 or so, 98, 99, the guys in On Trial were giving me cassettes that they had of all the old gigs that they had played, because they started in 86, I think. And so they had some concerts like from when they played at the high school in 86, but nobody at that time had a cassette deck hooked up to their computer, but I did.
Okay.
And so people would come around to me and give me their cassettes, and I would.
So you're the guy. Yeah. That's amazing.
But yeah, I have. But before I left, Fuzz Manta and Baby Woodrose and On Trial and Mantric Muse and a lot of these people, I gave them all the recordings to them.
The masters, you don't have copies.
I have digital on some of the backup discs. I have some of it, but actually I don't have a lot of it. I don't have anymore. No, because the only copies were there or what had been traded to other people. I mean, after cassette trading went out, there was a window before all the torrenting, all the torrents and all the download sites that wasn't set up on the internet yet. So there was CDR trading.
Right.
So I did a lot of concert CDR trading with people. And so there are copies of a lot of this stuff out there for other people as well on CDs.
I mean, if you can chase it down, just the
easiest thing would be to just have them give me the box back, and then I could rip all the CDs again.
Because remember those tapes I gave you? I'm gonna need that back.
Because I mean, Uffe when I visited him and gave him the box, he didn't even own a CD player, and he probably still doesn't. So they're probably just still sitting in his apartment, you know. And Henrik from Ontra, I went to his place too, and expecting, of course, they've got to have a CD player, but he doesn't have a CD player either. You know, these are people that are really into vinyl.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's like a moral stance at that point to not own a CD player. Is yes, it's a refusal. Okay.
But I documented a lot of stuff in the Copenhagen scene and went to hundreds of concerts in Denmark. So
yeah, no, that's it. I mean, that's so special, you know. I mean, you know, to do something like that just doesn't exist anywhere else or in any other form. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ideally, you know, a band like Baby Woodrose, he has all these recordings. He could actually rip the CDs and put them all up on his Bandcamp site, let people hear them at least, you know,
right.
Just even streaming. Same with Ontra. I mean, the archive for Ontra, there's an amazing amount of concerts, and yeah, and they used to play, yeah, some pretty psyched out shows on Ontra. I mean, like really far out 20-minute jams on Rocky Erickson songs. And
that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
But you know, I'm writing a book too.
I did not know you were writing a book. Tell me about the book you're writing.
Okay, well, I'm writing a book about my life in music.
Okay, that's a book's worth. Yes.
You know, starting from how I got into music, what I was listening to when I was growing up, and how I got into the earliest bands I was listening to, and then the new wave of British heavy metal, and how I got into recording concerts and trading music. And then then it kind of just goes into college days. And then in 1984, I started putting out this heavy metal fanzine called Metal Madness,
mm-hmm.
which I put out 11 issues in 4 years. And then I starting my PhD. So then I had to stop that and focus on my studies. So, but
it's legit.
There's a lot of stories in all of that. And then, yeah, basically just all, and then it's, you know, in 84, 85, I was managing a band in New Mexico called Max Trixie. And so talking about, that was the first time I dabbled with working with a band and managing a band. I mean, at this time, I didn't even start playing any music till 1999. So I never really played music, mm-hmm. but I've always been passionate about music and writing about music as well. And then I've also, I've always kept all these, even just little small diaries with all the ticket stubs, you know, of the concerts. And then there would be like a small write-up, you know, here's Iron Maiden and Anthrax at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, 1991. You know, nearly sold out, 7th time to see Iron Maiden, 3rd to see Anthrax. Loud, great show. Maiden was very energetic. And then I have some notes about, and then I wrote down the set list. And so I have all the, you know, I have all these. So I had a lot of documentation of all this stuff. And then, of course, once I started writing for Aural Innovations from Columbus, Ohio, I wrote for those guys for like 10 years. That was a whole archive of stuff, memories. And then I started my own music blog, the writing about music at blogspot.com. And every concert I ever go to, I always write a review of it. So there's a lot of written material out there. Now it's just it's all trying to find out how to make it flow, you know, is it in a timeline? And then there's specific sections on bands that I had a lot to do, like Gas Giant. I was playing with this band, managing this band, going on tour with this band, and then the Norwegian band I was really good friends with those guys too.
I didn't know.
And they would come over and play in Denmark, and I'd hop on the tour bus and go on tour with them for the next 3 days. And then they'd take me on tour with them up in Norway a couple times too, which was just a blast, you know, traveling around with these guys. They were such great guys, and we just hit it on a real personal level. And I've had a long history with the guys in Sienna Root.
Mm-hmm.
As well. West Faith and Love is two of the guys. Yep. We made 2 records, and that's 2 of the guys from Sienna Root. And actually the drummer Luva from Sienna Root, he was just here last week.
You said that in your email. What's
visiting here for the second time.
he's got a new solo record, does he?
He does, called Unconditional Love. He just got the test pressing, and it's yeah, it's quite interesting. It's him playing drums, and then most of the tracks have Sam from Sienna Root on bass, and then there's KG Westman, a guy who plays sitar on a lot of the OSC stuff, and he used to play guitar, organ, and sitar in Sienna Root. He plays some instruments on it as well, but it's seven. I think it's 7 tracks, and it's just kind of interesting, cool, groovy music overdubbed with political speeches.
It's interesting. Okay.
So they're long political speeches, one with Martin Luther King, two with Greta Thunberg, the Swedish environmental activist, and I think Theodore Roosevelt. I think there's Churchill. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's basically these political songs that they've created music behind, but yeah, it's quite an interesting album.
That's an interesting project.
Yeah, when he was here 2 years ago, he was just starting it. He had the drum tracks, and we fiddled around and we recorded some synthesizers for some of the tracks while he was visiting at that time. And then I think he had 4 out of the 6 political speeches chosen at that time too, but now he's actually finished it and has the test pressing, and I think it's coming out end of the year or January or something.
Nice. Well, let's see, test pressing to actual vinyl, so probably like 2024 by now. It'll show up.
It's painfully slow now. It's really, I mean, Space Rock Productions, we've really had a bad year because of it. I mean, we had planned to put out 7 releases this year, and because of all these delays, we've basically only put out 2 records this year.
But how long does it take to manufacture a CD? Compare.
A CD you can get done in 2 to 4 weeks.
See,
maximum.
that's keeping the format alive at this point.
Yeah, and the same with a cassette. If you want to get a cassette produced, it's about the same time period, 2 to 4 weeks to get a cassette made. But vinyls have gone from about 3 to 4 months to like 8 months now.
Yeah. 8 months was the last timeline I was quoted, and that was, as you say, it was 3 months, it's 4 months, it's 6 months, and then amazing, terrible.
I mean, we're finally putting out the last of the OSC albums that were only on CD that were released by Trans Substance Records, and this one was called Sleeping with the Sunworm, which came out in 2010, I believe. And it's finally going to be out on vinyl, but we submitted that in April. And here we are, end of September. I still don't even have the test pressing yet.
Yeah. Wow. Yes, exactly. Yes. So, I feel like that is the only appropriate response to that. You're not wrong.
To fill in the time, I release these records in only 100 copies, and then I paint the covers myself and things like that.
Great. I mean, why wouldn't you do that anyway, right? That's awesome.
Because you can get them pressed a little faster if you don't want any covers, and if you don't want a test pressing, and
right. But I think that, I don't know, I like that kind of thing anyway. Right.
Yeah.
That kind of limited personal touch sort of. You see a lot of people doing that with tapes because they're dirt cheap, right? If you just get a tape made and you could put your own art with it and whatever, so if you can do that and make it work and get a record back in less than 8 months, fewer than 8 months, I see that as a win.
Yeah, it's quite fun to do. I've done it 3 times now. The first West Space in Love, the first 150 copies that we made, about 110 of them were me or my daughter or my friends would come over and we'd paint album covers.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and then with the project I have with Matt, who used to play drums, and Matt Coito, who used to play in Elder, the Aural Hallucinations, the first album, we pressed 150 copies and I spray painted all the covers.
Yeah. You have another Aural Hallucinations out, and Not another coming. No, not
No,
yet.
we have another one out. We
It's
had one
out.
out that came out in I think it came out in March or early April.
Yeah.
Same time as the Doctors of Space COVID session CD.
You have been very productive with Doctors of Space.
Well, we get together every month, Martin and I.
Right.
We have a monthly jam session in his studio, and then every month we put out like 3 out of the 6 or 7 jams that we up on Bandcamp. So we have like a new kind of 45 minutes to an hour of music that we can put out to people every month. So it's been great. In fact, this is going to be the album cover for the new album.
Oh, hey. I didn't even see it. There you are. Very nice.
Yeah, that's going to be coming out on the Spanish label Gerson next year. It's
G-U-E-R-S-S-E-N person.
Yeah, I think it's G-U-E-R-S-S-E-N. Yes,
Yep.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the same label that's released Martin's Wicked Lady.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Wicked Lady recordings from the 70s.
Now, how did you and Martin get together? Is he just in the area?
It turns out that my friend Niels in Copenhagen, he was friends with Martin because Niels was a big friend of Wicked Lady, and he was a Facebook friend with Niels, and Niels said, "Hey, Martin, he's moving to central Portugal. You should try to meet him or get together with him." And it turns out that we moved to Portugal almost the same, within a month or two of each other. But he was moving from Bulgaria. He had left the UK 8 years before that and moved to Bulgaria. And then because the healthcare, he's getting older and the healthcare is not that good in Bulgaria. They wanted to go to a country that had better healthcare, but the same cheap kind of living. Although Portugal's not quite as cheap as Bulgaria. But anyway, turns out Martin lives about 45, if you drive really fast, you can get there in 45 minutes, but it's about 50 minutes normally to get to his house.
Okay. Close. Right there.
Yeah, it's not so far. So it's just, I buzz over there once a month. And in fact, we're going to meet on Wednesday and have our September jam session. And
that's fantastic. But a new album from it. I mean,
who knows? But it's turned out we just have a great chemistry, and he's also such a nice guy and still a great guitar player. He's 69 years old now, and he can still really, really rip it up, and he's really creative, and we just get on really well. I mean, it first started out when I first moved here that we got together and he did some guitars for the Dr. Space Alien Planet Trip Volume 3.
Yep.
And then after that, we just decided, well, let's just make music together, and we got to call it something. And he's also a PhD. So it's like, okay, how about Doctors of Space?
I did not know he was also a PhD.
We're both PhDs. So
what's his PhD in?
I think his is in anthropology, I think.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, he used to teach courses on facial reconstruction at Cambridge.
Wow.
So he became like a world expert on being able to look at 100,000-year-old human skulls and be able to tell you what that person might look like. Yeah.
That is something. That is.
Yeah, it's quite special. That's quite a special that he got himself in through his interest in history, and so there's a lot of really cool ancient sites here in Portugal too.
Of course. Wow.
There's just on the other side of town. There's a burial mound that's almost 5,000 years old.
That'll keep you busy, recognizing faces or reconstructing faces. That's
but
okay.
But he's retired from science now, so he's still, but he's an electronic wizard, so he builds pedals, he builds most of his own guitars now, and he even built guitars and built his own synthesizers in the early 70s.
See, so does not surprise me. Does not surprise me that you and this guy get along. does not.
Yeah,
Does
no,
not
we can
surprise me.
talk science, we can talk music. It's really great.
That's incredible. And you guys were a highlight of Roadburn Redux for me this year. That was a lot of fun, that session.
Thank you. We had a lot of really positive feedback from it, and yeah, I think the Redux, it was a lot of fun. It was fun. You could go into these chat rooms in the evening, and like you could see, oh, there's Walter's icon, and then, oh no, Dr. Space is joining. And you see little people running across the screen towards you.
Yes, right. In absence of the actual people, yes, it was as
But
much
it's
as you could
looking,
ask for.
I'm guessing it's looking like it's going to be likely to be able to happen next year. I mean, I saw that they're having the first concerts in Holland now with full audiences again.
Yes, I've been keeping up, as you might imagine. And it seems like they open up and then 2 weeks later they go, oh, that was a terrible idea, and they close down again. So I will be interested to see how it goes. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see. It also depends on how well the population is being vaccinated and if they're going to ask for vaccination passports and things like this or not.
Yes, exactly. Tell me about in this 30 plus release list you sent me. Caught my eye was the Picks from Space volumes 1 through 12 box set.
Okay, well, back in 2005 and 6, I started putting out this series. That one, the artwork's this series, actually, they're still sitting here because I've been working on remastering, but I put out this series. It was a limited edition CDRs called Picks from Space.
Okay.
This is volume 7. That was volume 9. Volume 8, in the end there were 12 volumes, and 11 of them were just the best of the jam sessions that we were having at that time, because the Øresund started off as just jam sessions between the bands Blond Blonden, which was based in Malmo, and the band Mantric Muse in Copenhagen, and myself. And so either the guys from Mantric Muse and I would travel over the bridge to Malmo, and then we jam over at the Blond Blonden rehearsal room, or vice versa. The Blond Blonden guys would come over the bridge to Copenhagen, and we jam over there. But I recorded everything.
Okay.
And in order to get this music out there, we used to put the best of the jams on our website. After we'd have a jam session, we'd choose a few pieces and put them up on a website, the OresundSpaceCollective.com website back in the old days. But then just to have something to sell before we actually got support from Transubstance to make some records with them, I started burning these copies. And I think and then you could buy like the whole set at some point. There were a few whole sets, but I think in the end there was probably 50, 60 sets of these Picks from Space. But over COVID, I've actually had time to go back and hunt down most of the original recordings. There are a few of the sessions I couldn't find the original recordings. I only had the EQ versions where I had already EQ'd them, and not the raw not the raw mini disc recordings anymore. But anyway, using the Universal Audio platform, I've been able to really enhance the sound. I mean, they have never sounded better now. But the idea is to get these out on real CDs in a box with real, like, I think each one is going to have a real sleeve. And then we can have pictures, and we can have like notes from what I wrote from my diaries in there, and have that in a box with 12 CDs, and probably release that in like maybe 300 copies, something like that.
Right on. Okay. I'm glad I asked.
But I've got one volume left. I've finished the music for all the volumes except for one.
How is it for you to go back on something like that? Because, I mean, you do so much and you've done so much that I have to imagine that at some point you just forget about stuff.
Actually, I have an amazing musical memory. So
come on. You
I
no,
think
okay. Yes, fine. An amazing
so.
music.
I actually,
Hundreds of releases. Hundreds you've done, right? You've got to be north of 100.
no. Oh yeah, I'm north of 100 for sure, but not hundreds. I mean, I think if you go to Discogs, there's like 169 credits for
Is
me
that
or
all?
something like that,
Yes.
And then if you go to Coda, Coda is where all the songs are registered. I think there's about 700 songs registered, but that's because that's yeah, but that's but that's because every time Øresund Space Collective plays a concert, that's a new song.
Exactly.
And those all get registered in Coda. So it's not like I wrote 700 songs.
Right.
But I have played on 700 songs.
Right. Okay. So I mean, some of those 700 songs you got to forget.
Oh yeah, sure, but it gets sort of ingrained in your mind quite a bit when you actually are listening to them, and then I'm always the one who transfers the recordings to the computer. I'm always the one who EQs them, makes them better. So I hear them quite a few times. And I also have, I've got all these diary books.
Right. You are the one chronicling as well as working on them.
So I'm chronicling all this, and the more you refresh your memory about this thing, you're writing about it, you're listening to it, you have it on your computer, you actually remember an enormous amount of this stuff. And I mean, those early jams that we used to have in the rehearsal rooms, they were so much fun. I mean, it was as much a big social party as it was to just jam and make some music,
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were real stoners, so they like to smoke tons of joints, and there was beers, and we, normally we'd record 2 or 3 sets, and by the third set, yeah, music was maybe not as cool as because people were having too good a time, but
right.
But I have quite a great memory for this stuff, especially because it's all written down too, so that reinforces your memories.
Sure. Even the act of writing it down, I find. Absolutely. Yes. How has the Bandcamp subscription platform worked out for you? You showed me, what is it, Relaxing in the Himalayas?
Yes.
How has that worked for you? You do a lot for the Bandcamp subscribers.
We have, for the last year, we've had about pretty steady at about 50 subscribers.
Okay.
We have, the highest we ever got to is 56, and we have 53 right now.
Okay.
And this is enough that it makes it worth making physical products for them.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. I mean, there's a 2 tiers. You can be on at 10 euros a month, or you can be on at 6 euros a month, and they both get all the music released digitally.
Right.
And all their names are actually in the CD too. All the subscribers have their names in the CD, whether you pay 6 or 10. The difference between is if you pay 10 is that you get this one for free.
Got it.
You get the physical items for free. You get the LP back there that we released in January, Cruising with the Alien Crew. Everyone who subscribes at 10, they get that one for free. The only thing I do is that if you've only subscribed you have to be subscribed for at least 3 months.
Okay. So
because when we set up the Bandcamp subscription, they only had monthly payment. Now if you're starting up a Bandcamp subscription as a band and you haven't set up subscription before, you can choose to have people pay you once a year. So they just pay 120 euros if it's 10 euros a month. They just pay 120 euros once. But here we have people can just pay 1 month and then they can unsubscribe the next month. And so it's not really fair. If somebody subscribes, they've only paid 10 euros and they get a free record.
Right.
So I just kept it that you had to be subscribed for a minimum of 3 months in order to receive the physical items. But we put out, I think, five Bandcamp subscriber CDs, 5 or 6 live CDs now, and this is the first studio material. And so they these people get it free. They get their names in the CD, and it's a nice support, you know. I mean, and all that money that I've been getting from that has actually all been going into building the studio.
Right. I mean, it's an interesting system. I mean, you know, to
make
it that much more self-sustaining.
And it's not just this, you know, I try to release something to them every month. So every month I'm releasing, usually it's been live concerts. It's usually been live multi-track recordings of concerts. And then some of these will later be up for sale on the Bandcamp site. And some of them aren't. I think there's at least 15 exclusive releases on for the subscribers that are not on Bandcamp. So there's still a lot of exclusive music that the subscribers have had that nobody else has had. And sometimes I'll run across things like on the 2018 tour, I actually recorded quite a few sound checks.
Okay.
Normally I don't record the sound checks, but here I had found that, oh wow, I actually have like 4 sound check recordings. And so one month I just put together these sound check recordings, and that's what the people, you know, because we're still jamming.
Right. Yeah, no, it's jams. Hey, if the sound works, right? I mean, why not?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, but it's great that there's at least a core of dedicated fans from, they're spread all over the place. We have subscribers in Denmark and Sweden and Finland and New Zealand, and a lot from America. Probably half of the subscribers are from America.
Nice.
And a lot from England as well. Quite a few from England as well. So yeah, I hope. I mean, most of the subscribers have stayed with us, so I think they feel like they're getting a value for their money. So
I think if you're putting out a release every month, you're probably living up to your end of the bargain. I'm
trying, but my problem is because we haven't been playing so many concerts, I've run out of multi-track concerts to give them. I simply don't have any in the archive anymore.
It's a good thing you have some shows coming up.
It's a good thing, and it looks like at least 2 of them we can multi-track record too. So
there you go. We mentioned briefly, I think before we actually started recording, the 30-year experience, Danny Frankel's 30-year experience album that you are on, which I'm going to review actually after we get off. So
I think the official release date was supposed to be October 1st, but I think we haven't even received the CD. So I think it's going to be pushed back to the 15th for the official release. But the band might still, but the band might still be releasing it digitally on October 1st. But yeah, that's interesting because, you know, the year before we had made a 30-year experience with Dr. Space CD.
Yep.
And that was quite fun because we had already released 3 of their records, 30-year experience, on Space Rock Productions. So I've been really familiar with the guys, even though I've never really met them, and I really love their music. And at the end of last year, I think it was November last year, Robbie sent me 4 pieces of music that were really basic, like almost just like 2 of them were just like drone in E and drone in D, which turned into 2 of the tracks on the CD eventually when everybody else, but they were really quite basic, and I put layers of synthesizers, and then they've just grown into tracks.
Right.
And then the 2 other tracks were the long hard rocking jams that are on the record. But they're very different than when I first recorded on them back in almost a year ago.
I believe that. It's an interesting record. It's not even like the other stuff they've done. I mean, most of what I know from 30-year experience, I know from Space Rock Productions, right? So I mean, it's not the same.
No, it's not at all. I mean, and it's because there's a lot of different people playing.
Yeah.
This time more. Yeah, Robbie has a big network of musicians that he knows through his years and years in music. So yeah, I think it's quite good. I'm really satisfied with it in the end.
Who is playing bass on Space with Bass 2?
Okay, well, one of the bass players is the same as on Space with Bass 1, Hasse Horgamo from Tangle Edge.
Okay.
And then we have William Kopecky playing bass. And he had a prog band in, God, maybe 20 years ago with his brothers. All three of them are musicians, bass, guitar, and drums. And it was just called Kopecky.
Okay.
And they're originally from Wisconsin, I believe. And but he lives in Marseille in France now, and he does more experimental music. He has like one foot in the prog world, with playing with Swedish and different prog players, and then a foot in the weird experimental world with a guy from Croatia named Dimitri, where he releases this really dark, far out music called Haiku Funeral.
I'm gonna look that up based on the name alone. Let me just write it down. Haiku
Funeral. But I think he's a really cool bass player. But he on the 3 tracks I sent him, he played not what I expected him to play. So it was really quite cool. He just went for more like spacey, atmospheric, trippy sounds with the bass rather than like real driving bass player
rather than bass lines.
Because he's like a really intense bass player, like Chris Squire type, like really, really driving lead bass player type style. So yeah, but I think it's a good mixture. It's a good mixture. And I mean, I've tried to find a label to release it, and in the end, I think we're just going to release it ourselves on 100 copies to get it out there in the world, because it's the music is completely finished. We're just working with an artist to get the artwork done. But yeah, Space with Bass 2 is gonna have a different one different bass player.
And that is the Alien Planet Trip Volume 6.
That will be Volume 6, yeah.
That will be Volume 6. I assume there is more coming, especially once you get the studio up and running. Do you have future plans, things in mind for other Alien Planet trips, other collaborations?
I do, but so far, people who I've sent tracks to, who I really would like to record, have not really come back with anything yet, But I keep, I record stuff like this month I've recorded 7 new pieces ranging from like 8 to 20 minutes long with this setup you can see behind me. I got a digital Mellotron recently.
Ooh, that's fun.
And it's just amazing. It's really changed the soundscape that I have now, because now you've got voices and you've got violins and accordions and saxophones and flutes and sounds that are just really high quality that you can mix into the sound. And
I mean, nothing sounds like that, right? Like a Mellotron strings is so particular.
It's so unique. I mean, we've been using it also for I got it in June, so the last couple jams with Doctors of Space, there's Mellotron on a lot of the tracks as well. And then I've got the Hammond XB2 organ here, so you can simultaneously play the same chord on the Mellotron and the Hammond, and you get this big. So I've been making these space outs here where I just have all these synthesizers going at the same time, and then play different melodies on the Mellotron or the organ, and have like on the Novation you can have like a repeated bass sequence or a synthesizer sequence, and then it's connected to the other synthesizer over here, the Nord lead, which can be making spacey sounds, and then I've got the modular synthesizer here that I can make all the more crazy sounds.
Right.
And I've just in the last year I've also pulled back out my old little theremin box.
Oh.
So I bought this like 10 years ago, and I haven't hardly used it, but basically it's got a sensor that senses the passing of the wind across.
That was my question. Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
I have never seen a little theremin box like that before, but
yeah. So I mean,
the
it's
antenna.
Not,
yeah.
Yeah, but you can't. It's very primitive though compared to that. But when you run it through the echo, it still sounds really cool.
That is
So
what counts.
so there's plenty of stuff, and I have sent some material out to a couple different guitar players. A friend of mine who lives in Arizona named Wes Powell. He's an amazing, very talented guitar player from the kind of Mike Varney metal world of things, woo type guy. And
Shredder.
but he hasn't recorded anything for me yet. And yeah, Ed Mundell actually promised me he would record some stuff years ago, but he still hasn't recorded anything for any of the Alien Planet trips. But
Wow.
I think one day he'll come through.
Ed Mandell's working in his own time. That's fine. Ed Mandell.
He's definitely working on his own time scale,
Yeah.
but he's a great guy. I mean, I used to hang out with him every time Monster Magnet came to town in Copenhagen. I'd just show up there, and then we'd go out to dinner, Ed and I together, or we'd sit on the bus together, or yeah, I had many, many really good times with him.
Nice. I, as you know, recently talked to Pat Harrington from Geezer.
I listened to the entire interview. It was great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. When is the Geezer meets Dr. Space? The Obelisk presents Geezer meets Dr. Space full-length album happening? When is that happening?
I think you have to ask Pat, because I think he's going to have to be the one who initiates it. I mean, I could send him a 20-minute synth track and say, hey, can you guys record something on the top of that? But I think it would probably work better. I could do that, but I think it's trickier for him to get the whole band kind of into that. It's easier for him to layer guitars on it, but for the drummer to get into it, it's actually easier if they get in there in the mindset of, hey, let's make a tripped out space rock type jam, and have them kind of hear the spacey sounds in their head and hit record and just go for it. And then they can send me a couple tracks, and then I can add my magic to it.
Okay. All right. So, I'm going to get on Pat. You can get on Pat, but I love
this happen. I've been a big fan of those guys since, even since when they were more like a hard blues rock type band. But of course, I loved it when they were going to the more spacey stuff. But I still dig it.
That's it.
It's groovy.
Yeah, groovy. That's it. It was aptly named. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna bug Pat this week then. Be like, hey, you guys make with the groove.
But they're coming to Europe, Geezer, again next year. I saw that they're playing this heavy psych sound festival in Switzerland. I think it is.
Yep. Switzerland.
I'm hoping hopefully there'll be some more dates, and if we're lucky, if they can arrange a few days extra, they can come to my studio in Portugal. See, we could record the jams here on the way back to America.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Get them in there.
Yes. Because back in 2019, the guys in Elder, they finished their European tour. They had done 40 concerts, and they finished their tour in Portugal, and they all came and stayed at my house.
It's nice.
They were all staying here. They were all staying here.
Aural Hallucinations happened. Right? Is that?
Yeah. Well, that's how Matt and I started talking about making music.
Sure. Makes sense.
So, but they all stayed here, and Nick's like, "Oh, you're going to build a studio? Yeah, this would be great. We could come and record a new Elder record here, or his new project as well if they."
Delving, yeah, definitely. Why not?
Yeah,
you're going to be booking out, man.
But I'm hoping to be able to get some of these bands, if they can end their tours in Portugal and spend a few extra days, and they can come and record in the studio.
Right.
I know the band White Hills. They will for sure come and record here sometime.
Nice.
Because I've been friends with those guys for more than 10 years, and I played with them a few times too. And I think if they can just arrange that they end their tour in Portugal, because they're direct flights from Lisbon back to America. So
sure.
To New York, to Boston, to Washington, D.C., San Francisco, they have direct flights. So we'll see.
Man, I hope. I look forward to you getting OSC in your studio.
Me
I,
too.
I feel like yeah, I feel like that's gonna be something, a moment worth capturing, probably across multiple albums, right? I feel like that'll be.
I'm excited too, because I mean we haven't been in the studio together since 2017, and I don't know what lineup is going to come, but you know, I'll invite a bunch of them and we'll just see who can actually make it down here.
Yes, yes, perfect. That is the ultimate improvise ethic. Send me invites,
Well,
and whoever could show up.
well, you know, when you know Scandinavia, Sweden and Norway and Denmark, these places, there are so many great musicians.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
true.
really, really good players, and it's not that easy to get up on a stage and just play for 2 or 3 hours completely improvised music, you know. And these guys are just, they really have that ear, you know, to really know and hear what everybody else is playing, and they just have this intuition to the way their instruments. And I feel like, yeah, the guys we've been playing with the last few years, they're just so good. And I mean, we rarely ever, would I say, have a bad concert anymore, really, because the level of these players is so good. I mean, the tour we have coming up, we're going to have three very different bands for each gig. I mean, in Malmo, we're going to have a couple of guys who haven't played a lot with us since the late 2000s.
Okay.
So Pierre, the bass player, he used to play in Sergeant Sunshine. If you remember Sergeant Sunshine,
I do. Yes.
He's coming and playing bass with us.
Okay.
And Tim from the band Agusa, the drummer from Agusa, is going to be playing the drums.
I haven't heard their new record yet, and it's bothering me. Yeah.
I haven't heard it yet either, but the vinyl is on the way, I'm told. So I should get it this week.
Yep.
And then Tobias from the band The Carpet Knights, he played with us a lot from about 2007 to 2010. And he's going to play lead guitar with us. Okay. And then I'll be there. And then there's going to be a guest keyboard player that Tim is friends with that we've never played with. And then when we get to Oslo for Hustesabbat, Verman from Blackmoon Circle is coming to play. And Esk, the bass player from Kanan, is going to play with us.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're going to have, and then of course, Jonathan Siegel, who's been playing the electric violin and guitar, he's playing all three of the gigs with us. He's coming down from Stockholm and going to play all the gigs with us. So
record it. Just record it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We're definitely recording
it. Whatever you're doing, record it.
We will record it for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. I'm sorry. I will miss you in Oslo. Very sorry.
Well, hopefully we'll see you in Roadburn in person.
Hopefully. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording right there.
Okay.
So hang on.
Thanks,
hang on just
JJ.
a second. Oh yeah.